We have a lot to go through, especially in the last 24 hours here, as we have the latest with the Bills-Bengals game. The NFL announced last night the Buffalo-Cincinnati game will not be resumed. That game will not be resumed. The AFC title game will be played at a neutral site if participating teams played an unequal amount of games, and both could have been the number one seed if all clubs had a 17-game regular season. So, guys, there's a lot of different scenarios to get through right here, and we're gonna show you all of them on the screen. Let's start with number one. Buffalo and Kansas City, this is the scenarios for the AFC Championship game, of course. Buffalo and Kansas City both win or both tie. Buffalo versus Kansas City Championship game would be at a neutral site, which is going to be very interesting to watch. No home field advantage for either side. Buffalo and Kansas City both lose, and Baltimore wins or ties. A Buffalo versus Kansas City Championship game would be also at a neutral site. 3, Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Cincinnati wins. A Buffalo or Cincinnati versus Kansas City championship game, once again, would be at a neutral site. So a lot of different ways that the AFC championship game here, guys, ends up being at a neutral site.
Yeah, and to me, the one scenario and solution that hasn't been discussed is the right one, and that's just to do nothing. I would just given Kansas City the 1 seed, have it all be as normal. Yes, it's unfortunate that they were kind of gifted the 1 seed by a tragedy, but at the same time, that's sports. Weird stuff happens. Teams get lucky. They get breaks. Think of Kendall Hinton playing quarterback for the Denver Broncos. The New Orleans Saints got to play that guy. That's not a real game. It still counts in the standings. So, that's what I would have done. But, I guess this is probably better than other solutions.
You didn't get a vote. And, so this is what they're going to do. And we will know a lot more, obviously, after the Week 18 games. It's interesting, and we'll get to our Rotoworld headlines here in a second. But one of them, I think, will suggest that it's highly unlikely that the Baltimore Ravens win this weekend.
Correct.
Ruling out option number 2. The other thing that I think is important here is that as a result of this, my phone has been blowing up with people saying, okay, now that we know this game is definitely not being replayed, the Bengals-Bills game, what do we do for our fantasy league championship? What is the most equitable thing? And I will tell you that I've heard a zillion different suggestions. I have heard replay in Week 18. I have heard one from our producer Pete. His league was the winning team had a 60-40% chance of winning before the weekend per Yahoo. So they declared him the winner, and then they split the pot 60-40. They declare that team the winner. I've heard of leagues where they split the pot and declare both people, co-champions, and then they split the pot. I've heard of ones where both teams are co-champions and they donate the entire pot to Damar Hamlin's charity. What I think, and any of those are great, and it all depends on sort of your league, and by the way, how close or far away the score would have been based on potential Bills and Bengals players actually playing a full game. All that said, to me, what I think is the solution, sort of what you said, which is that, hey, the NFL, in fantasy football, we keep track of what the NFL says. If the NFL says Tom Brady threw 250 passes for 2 touchdowns, 250 yards for 2 touchdowns, that's what you score, right? The fantasy points related to that. And so the fact is, what the NFL is saying is that Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Stephon Diggs and so on down the list didn't score any points. The game did not happen. And so while it is incredibly unfortunate, that's what it is. And to me, that's how you should score it in your fantasy football championship. You think about, Kyler Murray from a couple of weeks ago. He played 3 plays for Arizona, got basically a 0. T. Higgins played 1 snap 2 weeks ago. Got re-injured something in pregame warm-up. No one knew about it. He literally played 1 snap, and everyone that had T. Higgins on the team got a 0. It's horrible and it's unfortunate. It was part of a tragedy, and it's, again, very low on the list of priorities given everything that happened in that game. But to me, that's the most fair way. It stinks, but that's fantasy football. Sometimes you just get a bad break.
Yep, 100%. I think that's the only way to do it. And look, people can do whatever they want. They can come to an agreement. That's fine. But I think if you're going off projected scores, then let's go back to 2007 and give the 16-0 Patriots the Super Bowl, because they were the best team, and they were the best projected team. They just happened to lose. That's just what happens. You have to go off what happened, and what happened here is zeros as determined by the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. It's a unique situation, right? So it's just going to require everybody in their league to work together, as you said, in whatever scenario is best for your league. Let's get through some more Rotoworld headlines that are injury-related, especially if you are one of those leagues that is playing into Week 18, whether you decide to play because you need the extra week, or you're playing 2-week championship. There's a lot going on here. So Christian McCaffrey, guys, remained sidelined for Thursday's practice with the ankle here. We know, Jay, the 49ers, obviously massive, massive favorites. Could see a little Debo in this game. It's looking like McCaffrey trending, obviously, the wrong way.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that Elijah Mitchell's trending in the right way as well. So now they got their running backs full stable outside of McCaffrey. And look, they're 14-point favorites in this game. I'm not sure even that they're that advantaged by the 2 seed over the 3 seed, because if you drop the 3, you play the Giants as opposed to potentially the Packers. So I just think it really matters to risk him. And even if he does play, they're 14-point favorites, so you wouldn't expect he's going to play in the second half anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, the other thing is that, so this is a tweet from Cam Inman, does a great job covering the 49ers for the San Jose Mercury and the East Bay Times. And so Cam just basically said, by the way, Debo Samuel and Elijah Mitchell both expected to play. And on McCaffrey, he's quoting Kyle Shanahan now. I'm sorry, John Lynch. He's quoting John Lynch, the general manager, on McCaffrey. Quote, if he's not right, we won't have him out there. Want him right for playoffs. But if healthy, he'll play. Doesn't say he'll play a full complement of snaps. Just says he might be active. I agree with you, Jay. Feels like he's not going to play, or if he does, very limited snaps. Not something that I would want to count on this weekend.
Another running back, guys, dealing with injury, James Conner, both the knee and the shin for Conner here. Officially, it did not practice in Thursday's practice this week. So when you're looking at it for this game, both sides could be out there starting running backs.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing to remember about Week 18 is that if guys are getting multiple DMPs and the team has nothing to play for, then they're not going to play, and that's just how it goes.
They don't need to gut through a meaningless game, essentially.
No, they're not. So the expectation here would be Keontae Ingram would get the majority of work for Arizona in a matchup that, you don't excuse me, you don't love the matchup, but again, the volume of work should mask it. So we're going to talk later in the show about other guys that you can potentially pick up that we think are going to have big workloads, but Ingram would be one of them based on the news around Conner.
Let's get into the quarterbacks here. A bit of a surprise in the middle of the week. Joe Flacco will start in Week 18 against the Dolphins. Dolphins' playoff hopes are on the line. They've obviously been dealing with their own quarterback carousel. It's looking like Skylar Thompson, backed up by Mike Glennon. Before the Jets in this game, Joe Flacco, with a pretty much entire backup offensive line in front of him, could hurt Garrett Wilson, he's probably the only Jet you're really investing in at this point.
Yeah, I would think so.
Tyler Conklin, too.
I was going to say, if you're streaming tight ends, I think Tyler Conklin's in the conversation there. But here's the thing about Joe Flacco. Better than Zach Wilson. I think if you would normally start Garrett Wilson, you're still starting Garrett Wilson. I think he is too talented and gets too much of a target share in this offense to ignore him.
Yeah. Yesterday, the Jets, or the day prior, the Jets were 2.5-point favorites. Now the Dolphins are 3-point favorites, and it's pushing towards 3.5. That's not just because of Flacco. That's also the offensive line and everything going on. But, yeah, it's not a good situation for the Jets.
We know how much the Dolphins have to play for.
Yeah, there's no question about that as well.
All right.
There you go. Week 18 superstar, Joe Flacco.
To the bigger quarterbacks here, Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni said Jalen Hurts is trending in the right direction for Week 18. This line is just an absolute mammoth, a 2-touchdown-plus line for the Eagles, favored over what Brian Daboll won't announce it. He said they'll make that decision Friday night. But, Jay, it looks like it could be Jalen Hurts against the Giants' backups. Yeah,
it's going to be Jalen Hurts. I mean, at this point, everything is trending in that direction. All the commentary has been as such. And the Giants are going to be missing, probably everyone. They've already ruled out Williams and Ojolari, and there'll be more to come later today. Brian Daboll's going to give clarity on that later. But, yeah, you fire up all your Eagles. They need this game to clinch the 1 seed.
Absolutely. All right, let's look at Lamar Jackson here, Barry. Still sidelined this week during practice with the knee injury. The bigger thing here is probably, Tyler Huntley's status as well. The Ravens right now just in complete quarterback flux in a huge game.
1,000%. It's going to be. It looks like it's trending towards Anthony Johnson, their third stringer, who has not, in what limited time we've seen him, has not been Brock Purdy. As the new bar for rating third string quarterbacks is. This doesn't look good, and I suppose you still have to start Mark Andrews because he's Mark Andrews and a tight end, although the truth of the matter is for the last 6 weeks he hasn't been Mark Andrews, quote unquote, but he's still a tight end that the passing offense, such as it is, will go through him. But he's the only Raven that I think you can feel confident starting here. We talked about Dobbins and Gus Edwards yesterday. We expect much more of a split between those two running backs, neither of them involved in the passing game here. So, with a third-string quarterback under center, I don't know how many scoring opportunities this team's going to have.
Yep. Fully expect it will be Anthony Brown at quarterback. The line has moved from
What did I say? Did I say Anthony Johnson?
It doesn't really matter, though. Because
no, it does. It does. I'm sorry. Anthony Brown. Thank you.
So Anthony Brown, the line has moved from the Bengals -7 to Bengals -10. So fully expect that it will be Anthony Brown. And also, Tyler Huntley might be their starting quarterback in the playoffs. We don't have clarity around Lamar Jackson. So
the Lamar Jackson situation is super weird, isn't it, guys?
Extremely. It's very. If you have somebody that is in a contract year, that clearly there's a lot of, I don't want to say friction, but they haven't been able to come to anything close to an agreement, and we haven't heard a status update on this injury at all from the head coach.
No, and I feel like when it originally happened, remember it was like, it's probably,
1 to 3?
Yeah, it was
1
just
to 3?
It's probably more weeks than days. It was just like, he probably is not going to play this week. It was like there was a chance he was going to play that first week. He's like, but it's probably not. It's probably more weeks than days. But that makes you feel like, okay, well, he'll be back soon. And here we are heading into Week 18. He's not going to play, and it doesn't feel like there's any optimism that he will play in the playoffs. We'll see, a week from now, but
I think the thing is there's no optimism and there's no pessimism. There's just nothing.
It's so weird.
Anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's going to be a fascinating offseason for the Ravens with their MVP quarterback, and we know he'll get franchise tagged if they can't come to that agreement, but you have to wonder what that's going to lead to as well. All right, before we go to break, I want to give the latest update on Damar Hamlin, the Bills. Really good news this morning, really uplifting news here. Damar Hamlin FaceTimed into our team meeting today to talk to players and coaches. What he said to the team was, "Love you, boys." And I know there was some other details that trickled out as well. He flexed when he came on the screen. Everybody went nuts. This is clearly a Bills team that is galvanized, and this is just awesome to hear.
Yep, just good news across the board. Obviously, it's an incredible story, and looks like the Bills, as much as you can be, looks like they're going to be ready to play football, and that's what they want to do, and that's what Hamlin's father told them to do, and it's an incredible story.
It absolutely is. It feels like sort of the best case scenario given how scary the scene was last Monday night. And by the way, just before we went on air, the Buffalo Bills, from their official Twitter account, announced that all of their players will be wearing a number 3 patch on their uniform this weekend to honor Damar. Also, by the way, every NFL team, all 32 teams, plan a tribute to Damar Hamlin this weekend.
Really well done by everybody in the NFL, and it's great to see the positive Damar Hamlin updates continue to roll in. With that, we are going to take our first break. When we're back, we're going through what's on tap. We're looking at key player incentives that could have a fantasy impact in Week 18.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.